John's Gospel, chapter 15. Most of us here are born again. We know that Jesus Christ chose us to be His, not because of anything good in us, but because He died for us and rose again. And we responded to His invitation, that's all. The only difference between us and others in the world is they did not respond to His invitation. Otherwise, we are no better than anyone else. But we also need to know why He chose us. And we read that here, John's Gospel, chapter 15, and verse 16. It says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you, that you would go and bear fruit, that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, He'll give it to you." So here it's very clear as to why God chose us. If we don't have a clear understanding of that, we can, drift along in life, doing many things, but missing out on the main purpose. It's like when parents send their children to school, there are a lot of things they do in school. They can go to the snack bar and have some food to eat. They can go and play games. That's not the primary purpose with which we send our children to school. Those are all extra things. The primary purpose is to get an education, and particularly in the important subjects like math and science and things like that. In the same way, in the many, many things that we do in life, we need to understand what is the primary purpose with which God chose us. He didn't choose us to make money. It's very difficult for some people to understand that. He didn't choose us even to live a wonderful, healthy life on earth. All these things are good, provided they don't destroy us or take us away from God. He didn't even choose us so that we have a good reputation before others. It says here, He chose us that we might bring forth fruit in our lives for the glory of God. And that fruit in the New Testament refers to two things. First of all, in our life, the fruit of the Spirit, that God is glorified as He can produce in us more and more of the love of Christ towards Him and towards others. More and more of the joy of the Lord, more and more of a life of peace and freedom from anxiety and fear. There's glory to God there. In a simple thing like you living one day without any anxiety or fear, that brings glory to God. Because there's something God can point out to Satan and say, "Have you seen what I've done in that person? In a world full of anxiety and fear, have you seen how that child of mine lives?" God can boast about very few of His children. And that's a sad thing. And that's because we are not gripped by the fact that this is the primary purpose with which He chose us. So if I'm not free from anxiety and I just got a promotion in my job, I should hang my head in shame. I say, "Lord, I just got a promotion in my job and I got 5,000 rupees more in salary, but I'm still anxious. I'm not proud. I'm just ashamed of myself." See, that's what I mean. If once we get our understanding clear, what did God primarily choose me for? All the other things are there, but they're secondary. Thank God for health. Thank God that in fact we got a house to live in, got a job and everything. But the primary purpose is that I might bring forth fruit in my life, that I can be humble and long-suffering in dealing with people, be patient and good, and self-controlled in my appetites. These are things that are the fruit of the Spirit. And the other aspect of fruit is that our life blesses others. Now, the world is full of people who do a lot of good to other people. Every religion teaches that. But I can do good to a person in a temporary way or in eternal way? I mean, to help people in a temporary way, giving them some money to help them out of some difficulty, that's great. I'm certainly not against that. But what I say is, if I have not helped them in terms of eternity, I haven't really accomplished anything that's lasting. If I help a person temporarily for a few years and he goes to hell, how have I helped him? So God calls us that our life might also, make an impression on other people, even if we don't convert everybody, make an impression on other people about the reality of eternity. There must be something about our way of life that in our place of work, people realize that here is someone who does not live just for the things of this earth. There's something about him that reminds me of eternity. I felt very strongly like that when I was working in the Navy, that every officer or sailor whom I worked with on a ship, that my way of life should remind them that there is an eternity beyond time. By the fact that I don't get upset with them because they did something wrong, or the fact that I don't get disturbed because I lost some money, or if somebody cheated me, I don't have a grudge against them. These are all little indications that I don't live like other human beings. People observe you, can they see that? That's an impression that we can make on our life. There's fruit in our life in somebody else's life. And you never know. Long after he has left you, one day he'll be convicted. I remember one of my senior officers, someone told me that when he was dying of a brain tumor in his hospital, the person he remembered was me, because I was the only one who made him aware of eternity. And people begin to think of eternity when they're on their deathbeds, and then they remember the people whom they met in their life who reminded them that eternity was more important than time. And I never saw him, but I'm thankful that in the years that he knew me, many years earlier, I sought to remind him of eternity. Take that as a challenge. Jesus says, I chose you that you might go forth and go and bring forth fruit in your life, in your character, and also in your ministry. And when you talk about ministry, I'm not talking about standing in a pulpit. We all have a ministry, whether you know it or not. People you work with are getting an impression. That's your ministry. They look at the way you speak. They look at the jokes you laugh at. They see the things you talk about. They see the things you're interested in. They see your attitude to money. They see your reaction to people who harm you and hurt you. And that's a ministry that you are fulfilling, sometimes even without opening your mouth. So let's take that seriously. And then I want to go on from there to the next step as to why we often do not bring forth that fruit. Because Jesus taught us here in John's Gospel, chapter 12, just before he went to death on the cross.